Hello, friends, and greetings for the day. Welcome back to another live session of our channel where we connect together and look forward to discuss more about what's happening in testing. And we certainly look forward to your queries, your concerns, and your discussions about the testing, which you might have at any point of time. And we're looking forward to respond to them, assist you with the best support possible. So look forward to the great discussion happening today as well as a part of our live session, and we will be supporting you with any kind of necessary support. So we are looking forward to a great discussion happening today as well, and we are looking forward to your questions too. I think this week I kind of like skipped the sessions what we had for the technical talks due to some urgent commitments which I had, and I had to cater those, so I could not create a technical discussion on testing concepts, and we'll be looking forward to do that in the coming week for sure. And we are looking forward to start a new playlist, which I'm still not sure about. So we might be looking forward to understand what best can be done in order to go ahead. Right. So, yeah, I think we are ongoing with one of our public sessions right now. I have posted it on community. Look forward to that because now, anyways, one day is over. So tomorrow there will be second day of the session. And yeah, if we have anything in future, feel free to be a part of it. Those who are interested to explore certifications, and I'll be also looking forward to add more content on Jira on our other channel, which is Testing in Nutshell. So I don't put any tool-based certifications here or tool-based content here. All my tool-based contents are available on my other channel, which is Testing in Nutshell. So if in case you are curious to learn more about the tools, stay tuned on the other channel, which is Testing in Nutshell, and you'll get lot of content there, and that would be amazing information for sure. Okay, I think the very first question of the day is coming in here from Nazmul. Nazmul says, "Good to see you. I got the new tester job. It's my first job. I have done fundamental agile, and I'm thinking mobile application, then automation engineering. Any suggestion?" First of all, Nazmul, very congratulations on your first testing job. I remember you from some of our previous discussion where you were looking forward to get ready and step into the QA career. So it's really good to see you that you finally have your job. Congratulations, and good to see that you have done your fundamentals and agile certifications. Yes, the next is pretty much aligned. You can look forward to get certified with specialized certification, which is on the mobile side, or you can look forward to even from a perspective of automation, which is another thing, right? So yes, you can look forward to add some specializations to your profile, which would be adding value in terms of industry competitions. So mobile application would be another suggestion, and automation engineering is perfectly fine because slowly you would grab some knowledge on automation testing, and given that you know really good about automation testing, it would be great to have a certification on that. So all the very best with your career ahead. Feel free to let me know if there's any questions which you may have, and I would be more than happy to talk about it. Okay, so that's one. I also have from Dinesh. Dinesh says, "Good evening, sir. Please explain software architecture along with testing perspective." Now, when you talk about the software architecture, the most important thing here, again, there could be multiple things about it. Just let me know if there's anything I can, talk about precisely to cater your question. I'm certainly looking forward to, talk about the basic architecture of an application. When you talk about the architecture of an application or software, it generally has three layers of it. We have database layer, we do have application layer, and in between that we have middleware. Now, middleware are all your web services, securities, etc., and so on. Now, you can have any number of tiers in the web services. Generally, this is called as a one-tier application. Then you can have two-tier, three-tier, four-tier, and n-tier. N-tier means any number of tiers you can have. And all these tiers are basically the uh, various levels intermediate between the application and the database. The architecture of a software basically talks about the the way the user interacts with the system and how exactly it penetrates through different layers of the web services and the architecture and reaches out to the database or the server. So when we talk about the server is something which is processing your request and responding back to your queries. And you would like to filter out the unwanted or invalid queries so that the server is not busy in terms of responding faster. So you create several layers which basically filter out the unwanted information on these multiple tiers, and only the valid query reaches, or valid request technically speaking, reaches to the server, and the server just looks forward to respond back to that. And this is how the system works, and it certainly helps you to build a faster responsive systems, and at the same time making sure that the data is validated right in the front, and at the same time making sure that the system gets all that requests which are valid from the user rather than processing unwanted requests. So when it comes to testing of this system, we generally use functional levels to do the interface testing, which is the intermediate tiers, what the system interacts with the other systems and the server as well. Or you can even talk about profiling, etc., to check the middlewares in terms of improvising the performance. So when it comes to performance testing, we pretty much have a lot of great insights to learn from there. And even if you talk about the security, all these tiers are pretty helpful. In fact, measurable in terms of that. So I hope that should answer your question, Dinesh. And if you have anything else, feel free to let me know. Najmul says, I'm watching your mobile application clips. Amazing. And suddenly got you online. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. It's really good to see that this is the reason I think we come online, because our viewers might be looking forward to learn and probably ask some questions to us, and we dedicate some time to them so that they can look forward. So thank you so much, Najmul, for that. Okay, next one coming in from Tahir. Tahir says, Hi Neeraj Bhai, I'm willing to do ISTQB Advanced Level Test Manager certification. What should be my line of action and approach about the certification? That's a very interesting question when you talk about the test manager. It's no longer like any other certification, I would say, in the world today. Yeah, of course, except for those which are giving manager level certifications. But still, to a certain extent, I would say you cannot compare. The test manager certification is an exclusive one, which is talking about a technical profession and at the same time giving you the credibilities of being a manager. So here we are talking about everything, Tahir. We are talking about the concepts of testing. Being a manager, you are responsible for doing planning, defining the strategy, monitoring and controlling, selecting the specific set of matrices which are going to help you do that job. And not only that, taking control actions in terms of deviations. So being a manager, you will be managing the whole process, getting involved in management reviews, showcasing your perspective of testing to the management or the other stakeholders of the project, and sometimes requesting, negotiating in terms of getting more time and bandwidth, getting the work done from the other stakeholders in terms of uh, unblocking your team, unblocking your work, etc. So the approach here is, I would suggest, go through the tutorials. My tutorials for test managers are equally fulfilling their perspective. So the tutorial is not more about discussion on the content. We are talking about real world scenarios. We're talking about how exactly each and every topic is implemented in reality. So I would say start with the tutorials first of all, where you will get to know what exactly is the content. Parallelly, try to relate it. Okay. Parallelly, try to relate it with your real world situation, which you have seen in your past. You certainly would have worked with several projects and you would have seen different deviations, and you need to recall that what your manager used to do and what are the recommendations now, right? The standard recommendations. So try to correlate them and see how things were not done or how things were done and how it is matching with the official syllabus at the same time, right? And again, there are no standard recommendations. There are suggestions that, hey, if this goes wrong, this is what you need to do. If something goes like this is how you need to take care of. So the point here is that be a test manager, which is the most important thing. Okay, you are not preparing as an engineer for the certification. You have to be a test manager in order to prepare for this. A lot of people who do not succeed in this examination are those who do not think like a test manager. You don't have to think like an engineer to take up the test manager certification. You have to think like a test manager, behave like a test manager in order to prepare for the certification. And if you have done that, you have built that psychology in your mind, you will be able to do it in 1 year, like very first attempt. Otherwise, there are only 60% people who pass this examination and 40% of them fail. So we don't want you to lose this opportunity. Take your time. There's no rush. Test manager is going to consume time for sure. It's huge, heavy, and has a lot of information. So first thing is build up your mind that you are already a test manager and now you are going through the syllabus, understanding them. Sample questions, as you know that it is just sample questions. Okay, there are no dumps available for test manager, so do not even expect it because in the examination the scenario could be anything, right? So I think that should answer your question there. If there's anything else, Tahir, I would look forward to respond back to that. Feel free to drop them below in the chat. My friend SM is here. Hi SM, how are you? Good to see you again. Dinesh says, can QA be considered as stakeholder for a system architecture and design? Stakeholder in design, see, if I have to say that, I would say rather that tester can be a stakeholder because there are certain things which are not only from functional point of view. If you are a non-functional tester, then you certainly have a stake in the design because functional testing does not matter when it comes to architecture, right? Unit testing, integration, system, etc. But if you're a non-functional tester, like performance, security, usability, portability, interoperability, you are certainly a key stakeholder in design architecture, okay, or system architecture, because all these non-functional parameters are technical parameters of the application, and they heavily rely on design, right? So the design is going to be very, very highly impacting their endpoints in terms of how exactly the performance will be, how exactly the service security will be, how exactly the system is going to be ported from one platform to another, and pretty much a lot many other things, right? So if you're a functional tester, I cannot call you as a stakeholder there. But if you're a non-functional tester, yes, you are a stakeholder in the system architecture. They will discuss with you. In fact, you will be contributing heavily to them that what are your ask on the performance side, security side, and so on. So exactly. So if you're a non-functional tester, you will be a key stakeholder in the system architecture. Okay. Tahir says, thank you so much for your detailed answer. Your videos are really helpful for sure. Thank you so much, Tahir, for recommending and appreciating the content. We look forward to everyone's success, and that's where we are. And moreover, we're adding more value by interacting with all of you and listening to your queries and trying to solve them as well. And thank you so much for your wonderful comment. Anyways, thank you. Vignesh says, hi Neeraj, I have written automotive, awaiting results, and agile cleared. Which one to choose between TTA and TA? All right, that's a wonderful thing. I do understand, given that you are in automotive domain, Vignesh, I don't recommend you TTA because you do not have scopes for technical test analyst. So let me tell you the difference. Again, I'm not sure who you are and what kind of testing do you get involved with. Who you are, I know you are Vignesh. Point is in a role who you are in your organization. But TA talks about functional levels of testing. TTA talks about non-functional levels of testing. So in most of my sessions for automotive industry, be it about Mercedes, be it about Bosch, Continental, all these organizations, I have done a lot of sessions on test analyst. Given that I understand they only deal with the functional side of it, and non-functional is limited scope. So I don't think TTA will be applicable, but still, just for your kind information, if you have been involved in unit integration and system testing, then like MIL, MIL, SIL, and HIL testing, then these environments are functional levels environment. And yes, you should go for test analyst. Technical test analyst is only for those people who would like to understand more about security, performance, portability, interoperability, API testing, and sort of thing. So if that goes into your profile, look into that. Or else, I think the best recommendation for you is test analyst. Okay. Dema says, will you upload a practice ISTQB foundation level? Because I couldn't find somebody like you explaining things very, very well. I hope in the future you will show us the practice way how to do testing also. I'm looking forward to that. It's just that I'm trying to have some time where I can, implement it. I certainly, go by your words. I have been, taking this responsibility as a passion, and it's not my part-time job. I'm a full-time instructor and consultant for organization. That's the reason you find my words very explaining. And I don't do just trainings just because I have some time. I'm a full-time instructor, and I know my job. So thank you so much for your compliment. It certainly makes a lot of sense to me. And yes, I'm looking forward to dedicate some time to build some good practice test for all the viewers here on our channel, and at the same time probably looking forward to have some projects being grabbed so that I can even create opportunities for people to do some kind of internships, or even look forward to add more value from the learning perspective, at least, that hey, this is what are the challenges, this is how you can write your test cases, or I can use those projects to explain more about how the testing should be practiced in reality. Recently I've started talking about the real world testing challenges, and how to approach testing in exact real way. And I've prepared a playlist called as Technical Talks on Testing, and there I'm talking about my views, perception on what should improvise testing process altogether. But I would take this feedback for granted and let me work on it for sure. I'm be looking forward to have some practice tests soon, and we'll share it on my community page. So be there actively participating, and I'll be happy to respond back. Right. So thank you so much, Dema, for sharing your thoughts and sharing your recommendation too. Ashes is here. Hi, your videos are super helpful. Thank you for making them available for download. Here in SA, without power, it helps. Cannot watch out at work. Have a good day. Thank you, Ashes. It's really good to know. And I think this is where I have allowed people to download my videos, because I don't want to have any kind of copyrights. It's nothing specific, but still, as far as it caters the people need and it helps them build that understanding anyhow, right? Be it about online, be it about offline, but yeah, they should help them. So this is where I've not restricted, the download part on my channel. So you are pretty much free to go ahead and use them, right? So thank you so much for sharing your feedback. Appreciate that. Okay. Kirti says, hi Neeraj, could you please explain dynamic code coverage gap analysis? Now, dynamic code coverage gap analysis. That's an interesting term. I understand dynamic code coverage gap analysis. That's a big word. Now, let's start with the breakup of this, right? And then we'll come to the gap analysis. First of all, we have code coverage, which is the measurement of how much code is being covered, right? So when you talk about the code coverage, which is with your testing, in terms of how much testing has been performed for a given code. Now, the code coverage is a measure of how your test cases have implemented the various possibilities of the code coverage. And at the same time, these test cases may not be sufficient enough to get all the aspects of testing, right? All the aspects of the code. Now, given that a code could have any possible for loops, while bend, do while, or if else conditions, and it could be having concatenation of that now and so forth, right? It certainly means that I'm trying to understand, even if I've written 10 or 20 test cases, what areas were missed out? What are the areas which we could not cover? And those gaps is what we are trying to analyze here. We say, for example, in order to test a particular simple code, I need 5 test cases to achieve 100% code coverage, right? I can do it with 5 test cases, but I've written only 3 due to crunch or maybe following a technique like statement testing, decision testing, and I just reduced it to 3. Now, the point is, I may have achieved 100% decision coverage by using just 3 test cases. But when it talks about the code coverage, which is the cyclomatic complexity, what are the possible ways this code can be used? The loops, the iterations, and etc. So when you talk about the for and the while when and do while etc. in your code, we look forward to the understanding that what are the gaps here, right? The limited number of test cases which you had, you have written it and you got some coverage measurement for that. But what if you would have written full, because you're doing exhaustive testing as well, right? At the same time, we're trying to remind you the principle of testing says that exhaustive testing is impossible. You cannot just come up with all possible test cases which you can design for a particular scenario or particular requirement, right? For a particular code. So it might be possible that you have just limited based on the techniques. Now the question is, what is this gap? How does it impact, right? And if that was not impacting, is that something beneficial for us to continue doing that in future as well? So doing that analysis, the code coverage gap analysis, that hey, due to technique you reduced it to 5 test cases. Without technique, I think I needed 20 test cases. So this 15%, or sorry, 15 test cases difference is what we are trying to understand, that how critical it was. Did it really help us to do better testing, or we should have done 20 test cases to do this job, right? So this is what the whole analysis is all about. And as the code is transforming, it's not a static code. There could be dynamically interacting values and dynamically executed or called and calling structure of the code. In that perspective, you may have further deep dive into understanding of what are the gap analysis. Okay. So I hope that makes sense, Kriti, and do let me know if there's anything you would like to talk about. We have Mustafa, and Mustafa says, hi, I came here to thank you for the awesome session of today, and I'm really glad to be taught by you. Hey, Mustafa, thank you so much for taking some time out after your session and being here. It's really a pleasure to have you here on the live session. And just to keep you informed, team, if you're aware, we are doing a public session, and Mustafa is one of our participants on that session today. So yeah, look forward to such great interactions, and we hardly do some public sessions, and those public sessions, those who are interested can join. Again, training is not something which is mandatory for everyone, but if you think you need a little more support, if you think that hey, I want to learn everything very professionally, not just by driven videos, lectures, I would like to take a one-to-one or kind of like a classroom kind of session where I can interact with the instructor, ask my questions, get my doubts clarified, then these public sessions are very helpful in that case. As you just interact with me 1 hour and you feel very happy about it, you imagine you can spend 16 hours with me and get to know a lot about testing for sure. So thank you, Mustafa, for being here and sharing your feedback about the session. It's really uh, keep me inspired all the time to do the good job for our audience here. Thank you once again. Nazmul says, does tester need to know SQL or Java or something like that, which would help tester understanding? It is said to be yes, because given that you have an understanding of the databases, pretty much today all the applications or most of the applications have some or the other interaction with the databases, and you might be doing sort of like querying something and doing a backend database testing sometime just to check that if it is working fine. Because at UI level, some of the functionalities may not work, but if you run a query, you know that it is working fine. So it helps you to identify the defect area, right? Where exactly the defect is. Is that with the database? Is that with the UI? So this is where we expect you to know SQL. Same way for the languages. Today, if you're talking about using automation, given that you are not in automation right now, probably, I'm guessing that, let me know. If you are stepping into automation, that's where programming languages would be required to write your automation scripts, right? So it's not necessary to know the language till you are in automation testing. And automation testing will only invite you to know the programming languages like Java or Python or Ruby or Shell, whatever the tool you are going to use, it depends on that, right? Otherwise, you don't need any languages. I hope that answers your question, Najmul. And we have another one coming in from Sam. Sam says, what will be the roadmap and duration that we can pass the ISTQB Foundation certification? Um, okay, so when you talk about the roadmap for ISTQB Foundation, I think it pretty much takes, on an average, 10 to 15 days of time to prepare well for it, even if you are a newcomer. If you are completely newcomer to IT industry, you may need more than 15 days also, but there's no standard as such, okay? That people should finish their preparation in 10 days. If you're taking longer than 10 days, you are not a good candidate or something. No, not at all. If you are preparing, 10 to 15 days on an average is what people have made, and they have succeeded in the examination. The second important thing here is that the roadmap is start with the learning of the syllabus first of all. Understand what is the content and context which board is trying to convey to you through their official syllabus, right? It is pretty important to know what they want you to know, right? So start with the syllabus understanding. There are clean and to the point tutorials available on this channel which you can go through. First, understand the syllabus. Second, once you're done with syllabus going through, on the way you would have been through some sample questions which are going to give you some kind of tips that, hey, this is how the examination questions will appear from a particular chapter, right? Which will guide you, prepare you for the complications and how to tackle a question during the examination. Step 3, start recalling, sorry, take up your mock papers. Okay, take up the mock papers which are officially available on istqb.org. Take up 3 mock papers and attempt it. Again, this is just for your self evaluation, that how well are you doing right now and which areas needs improvement, right? So from those mock papers you'll get to know the weak points of your preparation. Go back only to those topics where you went wrong and try to understand why you went wrong, not just get the answer. Okay, try to understand why you went wrong, and that would help you deal with making your memory more stronger or understanding it better, right? So you have 3 mock papers. By the time you complete the 3 mock papers, you would have been through syllabus perfectly fine, right? Finally, the step 4, just prior to your examinations, right? Or first schedule your examination. First of all, schedule your exam. You get a date for your examination, and once you have the date, prior to date, 3 4 days, you just sit back, relax, and start recalling that, hey, do I really remember what I've learned? And I'm able to recall on my own the whole syllabus, that what exactly uh, test process, test analysis is all about. So that's all what you need to succeed in the examination. You need a syllabus, you need the preparation, you need the sample questions, and you need the recollection. That's it. And scheduling is, of course, a part of it. So you will have to register for the examination, which you could do even like 1 week before. There is no problem with that. And you can schedule your examination anytime. There's no particular schedule that, hey, only on these days we do the exam. You can take it anytime, right? So I hope that answers your question, Sam. If there's anything else, just feel free to let me know. And team, don't forget to drop a thumbs up if you're happy with what we are doing. We want to let a lot of people know across the world that here is a live session and we are helping you get responses to your queries. So do recommend your friends, do recommend your colleagues if you think they have queries, but they don't have a person to answer them. All right, SM says, number 1, please explain the difference between severity and priority with an example of each, high and low, and how can you handle a high priority in a short time? Okay, so number 1, difference between severity and priority. When you talk about severity, severity is the impact which you are going to have for a defect, right? And I hope you're talking about defects, right? So if you're talking about defects, you are first defining a severity. For example, if I have a blocker issue, the blocker issues are critical, and it could be like having high impact also, not necessary, but also. So severity is all about the impact of an item, right? Now the impact of an item on the functionality, on the user, on the product's quality. So if anything is not working fine. So for example, if I say high severity, I must say that the login is not working with credentials, valid credentials. I have provided valid inputs as username and password, and I click on login button and it does not work. Now that's a high severity defect. The reason is it has a blocker for me to do the homepage testing. Second, it has a high impact on the end user interaction as well, that a user will not be able to log in. Now, severity is all about the impact and criticality of a bug. On the other hand, if I'm talking about the priority, priority is not used by tester at all. Priority is used by a developer in the sense when you report three high severity items to them. Okay, I repeat, if you are rating your severity by high, medium, and low, and as a tester today you reported three defects with high priority, all three with high priority, then how would developer respond back to you is with help of priority. He will prioritize or probably discuss with you that, hey, what do you think? Of course, I cannot think fix all the three defects at the same time, right? At the same time means not a day, not half a day or something. We are talking about parallel. He cannot fix three defects given that they are all with high priority in parallel, right? Half year, half year, half year. No. So he will ask you, probably discuss with you and ask you for your suggestion that, hey, which one do you think you need first? So you will help him to understand that, hey, I need this one first, like defect ID 1 first, then defect ID 3, then defect ID 2, though all of them are on the same severity level. Now the developer will have his own perception on top of it. He'll say, you know what, defect ID 1 is going to take time. It's a complicated issue. We need customer approval on this, and we need to take some technical decisions on this as well. So I cannot prioritize it. Okay, then go with defect 3 and defect 2 on the second priority and defect 3 on the third priority. Point is, you will talk to him. You will see what are the complications, whether his complications are more significant than your blocker, and sort of thing. And that's what the prioritization are used for. So high is going to come first, medium is second, and low is last. Similarly, severity, if you have high, that's anyways first, medium defects are second, and low severity defects are third. That's what you do with the severity and priority. And how can you handle a high priority in short time? You are not a developer, right? If you are a tester, you don't have to worry about high priority in short time. So if you can elaborate that, was it regarding test execution? Because bugs are not your responsibility at all. It should be a developer's headache that how they will be fixing and coming back to us, right? Nazmul says you're right. What is the second question? You says, what's an error sending? Error sending is kind of like, if I understand it well, what you meant here is the notification, right? Is the notification. Notification in the sense that, hey, something happened on my screen, right? The Microsoft, if you are using Windows or Mac and all, if anything goes wrong, you get a black screen, you get a blue screen, and sort of thing like hardware failure, software failure, they automatically keep collecting information, right? They keep collecting information from you automatically. So if anything goes wrong, they will take that information, or they'll give you a button that, hey, would you like to send this feedback to them? That, hey, please see this. This is what is happening on my machine, which could be a case study for them. So what is an error sending? It is more of like sending a system information along with the error that what went wrong on your screen to the concerned stakeholder, which is developer in our case. Right? Suhas says, please explain penetration testing. Okay. Now, penetration testing, of course, is in short called as pen testing, right? So pen testing is basically a part of security testing where we try to penetrate into the system in as an authorized simulated attack performed on a system, right? So when you say authorized, you are a red hat hacker or red hat security tester, and you are trying to let the people know that, hey, I'm someone who is an authorized person to perform this as a security tester of your organization, and we try to hack into your system, you try to penetrate into the system, right? So we use tools for this job, and define certain protocols which allows you to penetrate into system unethically. Unethically in the sense like without using the credentials. We try to, retrieve your password data. We try to retrieve your, username and password from the browsers, or either way, probably you're saving it on your system or you're saving it on your browser. These days, we are very habitual to save our passwords and username on the browser. So they will try to, penetrate into your browser data or penetrate into your application data or server data and try to hack into your user ID and password. All they need to know is the username and password. As far as they know it, they can next time put it very well into the fields and get sign in option. But as you talk about security tester, they not at all do that. They always use a different window altogether in order to push it to the server using your account. So that's where sometimes the Google, Facebook, or your banking applications will prompt you that, hey, we observed an unusual activity. Now, what is that unusual activity? That means you were not the one who was trying to use the normal approach of logging in. It was somebody else who was trying to penetrate into your account. So that is what is penetration testing, trying to step into where you are not allowed. Okay. Any idea of showstoppers, defect, suspension criteria? Yeah, sure. Why not? If you talk about showstoppers defect, these are the defects which is going to block your project altogether. That means we got a limitation on the platform, we got a limitation on the application or the language which you're using. You started working with Java and then you realized at some point of time that your Java is not capable of doing what you wanted to do, and you might have to revert. Or at some point, you are not someone who really have everything right there, correct? So it's just that it could be a blocker from a technical point of view, or it could be a blocker beyond out of the box, or it could be a blocker in a way that, hey, it does not allow you to proceed ahead. And following this, the consequences of blocker defects will be suspension criteria, that you may have to suspend the project. Now, suspend the project could be about budget as well, or contract negotiations, or contract breach, right? So you had a contract with the customer and somehow the contract was breached. The customer will suspend the project till you get a clarity, or till he or she gets a clarity on the project. So suspension criterias are set of those criterias. If when met, okay, if when met, your project will be suspended. Okay, suspended in the sense it will go in idle mode, and till the resumption criteria are met, you cannot resume the project. So we do have suspension and resumption both. If you have suspension criteria, you will have resumption criteria as well to resume the project. Okay, so I hope that answers your question, SM, and we're looking forward to it. Nazmul says, do you have any video clip like preparation for of interview and mock interview? The reason I ask your explanation so clear that it is easy to remember. I think I should create one now, because there are a few people who are looking forward to, learn things from me. Given that you are just one among them, many people are suggesting that, hey, your explanations are very detailed and effortless, and of course, it talks very detailed about what we need. So I think I should create one which will guide you well for the interview and mock interview process, which also will let you build better confidence to appear for the certifications. But yes, we would like to do more with kind of different experience based. So that is why I was kind of like waiting for this. But I think, yeah, this should be a good option for us to build some good videos with our interview candidates also, and we can publish them for better understanding. Sure, Najmal, thank you for your input. We'll look forward to that. SM says, what are the differences between TDD, BDD, TDD, and where they are involved? Okay. First of all, these are the test approaches for Agile. Okay. In Agile, we have these three approaches of testing: TDD, test-driven development; BDD, behavior-driven development; and ATD is acceptance test-driven development. When you talk about the test-driven development, it is mainly for unit testing, where or unit frameworks, where a developer develops after the test is written, right? So here the transformation is other way around. You first write a test on a particular functionality, and given that a test is something which validates a requirement or validates a code, so we thought why not to create the test first, and then we write the code to make the test pass. So like in this case, what happens? Two things happen. One is that we don't have defects, right? Because developer pretty much gets it that his code is not working to pass this test. Second, we don't really have to negotiate with them, right? The iterations will happen just like fixing defects, but instead of having that defect communication, long wait, etc., the direct refactoring will keep on happening consistently till the test passes. So it's like you got a requirement, you write a test for it, run the test. Of course, there is no code, it will fail. Then you start writing the code. As you think the code is ready, you run the test. If test passes, good. If test doesn't pass, you refactor your code. Continue this iteration till the test passes. That's what you call it as test driven development. The second thing is BDD, which is behavior driven development. And here our development is driven by the behavior, not by the core functionality or not by the test. So the requirement, the customer asks, the user interaction given, when, then. We go by this particular format. So we ask from the customer in this language that, hey, what is criteria? When I do this, then this is what should happen. So given I enter valid credentials on login page, when I click on login button, I should be able to see my homepage. Now this is where BDD works. ATDD is acceptance test driven development, which is derived from the acceptance criteria. So rather than going by requirement, going by user story, or going by behavior, you rather go by the acceptance criteria of a user story. So acceptance criteria are the key assets in your stories, which clearly specifies that all I need is these 5 points. If these 5 things are working in this functionality, I'm ready to accept it. So we derive our acceptance test from there, and those tests will be first written and then the development will happen. So in all three cases, developments are driven by test, behavior, and acceptance test. So that's the key difference. Kirti says, thanks Neeraj for such nice explanations. I'm now confused with Whitebox and Blackbox test techniques with static and dynamic code coverage. Statement and decision coverage test techniques as per ISTQB. Okay, first of all, Whitebox and Blackbox test techniques are mainly for the backend and the front end in simple terms. If you're testing on the backend, you call it as Whitebox testing. If you're testing on the UI level, you call it as Blackbox testing. Now, static and dynamic code coverage. Static is more about analysis, reviewing, not executing the code. So manually using a static analysis tool, you can do that. Dynamically is of course by executing test cases, running the code, and looking forward to have the desired outcome. So that's the difference there, right? Again, so static testing is more about reviewing the code, not executing. Dynamic is about running the code and then validating. So verification and validation. And statement and decision coverage are pretty much that we are testing statements in the code, we are testing decisions in the code. Statements are node and decisions are branches. And these are two different things for a single program given to you, and you can certainly measure them using two different techniques. I hope that makes sense. And if there's anything else, just feel free to let me know. Right? Ruchi says, please guide for how to learn performance testing, like any courses or certification. Sure, why not? In order to learn performance testing, I have a course for you on my channel called as Testing in Nutshell. Go there and you have concepts of performance testing very well elaborated with a tool, LoadRunner, okay, which is a commercial tool. There are very limited resources on LoadRunner. If you have that with you, that would be a great help for sure. And when you talk about the performance testing concepts, we have covered there in that playlist. So you can look forward to that too. So I'm not sure if I can quickly share that link, but yeah, I'll just put the channel name, go to the playlist section, and you will find everything what you need there, right? So you can start with my LoadRunner tutorials on this channel, and you can look forward to great content for your preparation. All the very best. Arvinder Paji, greetings, host. You're welcome. Good to have you here after a long time. How are you doing? Kirti says, how are you saying white box testing technique same as coverage? Please explain. White box testing techniques same as coverage. Okay, when you talk about measurements, right? We have statement testing as technique and coverage is the measure, right? It works parallelly. Okay, let's take this example. I got a code, right? I've written 5 test cases and I want to know how much coverage I have achieved, right? That's called as statement coverage by 5 test cases. And other thing is statement testing, which is the technique which gives me the minimum number of test cases to have 100% coverage, right? So one is you have written test cases and you want to know how much percentage of coverage we have achieved. That's called as coverage measurement. And second is I want to derive minimum number of test cases. I don't know what test cases I need, and I'm achieving 100% coverage by using the technique. Does that make sense? One is the coverage measurement, that I have already written test cases and I want to know how much coverage of code I have achieved. That I call it as, for example, if you're talking about statement, you're calling it as statement coverage. Statement testing is the technique which helps you derive the number of test cases for 100% coverage. I think that's what it is. Very straightforward. If that's still confusing, let me know. SM says difference between latent, masked, cascading, defect. Oh, that's interesting. So let me just help you with that. I think I would like to see what exactly does that mean in relation to it, because latent can have any certain definitions. Um, okay, so do you understand the terminology reproducibility, right? Reproducibility, I have yes or no as two different options. And what I'm trying to do here is I may have created certain specific things which make sense in terms of that whether a defect is visible only once or twice, right, or multiple times. So latent defect are those defects which do appear once, right, but may not appear again. Okay, in terms of like exist, right? And later when we tried, there was, it's difficult to discover and say that, hey, this is what it meant, right? But we don't see that defect any longer. So generally, this comes into practice when you're talking about acceptance, when you're talking about handing over the system to the customer and you have some open defects with you, and you told them, hey, this is what it is, and we have some known defects with us, and the client documented it that, hey, you have 20 or 10 known defects with you. Now when you handed over the system and you tried discovering those defects, you did not find them. So it's like more of like once, or like the defects which appear just once, intermittent issues, right? Those things can be called as latent. And masked, of course, as the name suggests, masked defects are those defects which are present in backend but not going to impact users in the front end. Okay, so I'm not sure how many times you see updates on your cell phone for mobile applications which are there, but you don't know where it is. But whenever you get an update, if you open the release notes of that update, you pretty much see the very first bullet point, bug fixes. My question is, where are these bugs? I've never seen a bug so far when I'm interacting with different applications, right? And moreover, many people have bounty on that. And I was like, come on, I wish I could find one of them. The point is, I don't use all the applications. That's one thing, like Instagram and sort of thing where people find a lot of bugs. But second thing is, those bugs are behind the screen, which are not enabled, and you probably don't see them, but there are known bugs for them. So they just highlight to you that, hey, we had some bugs which we did not publish to you. We masked it so that you could not see a problem on the screen. But yeah, that's how it is. So masked bugs are those bugs or defects which basically lead to the uh, the understanding of that these bugs are existing, but as a user you will not be able to understand what exactly the defect is, but the team knows and they'll be working uh, behind the screen to fix that. And talking about the cascading defect or defect cascading is basically the triggering of defect by another defect, which is generally my side effects of regression, you can say. So generally in regression testing, when you fix an issue or you uh, perform a change in order to solve a problem, solve an existing defect, and due to that fixing, some other defects have introduced. Or not only that, not a fix. Sometimes you just got one defect introduced, and due to that, multiple other things stopped working. Right. So depending on the control flow, depending on the data flow, you can have all these scenarios. Okay. So I hope you have good information with you. All right, a lot of things from USM today. I hope you are feeling very excited about testing. 7 differences between defect rejection ratio and defect leakage ratio. Defect rejection ratio is when you report issue to the developer and developer says, no, this is not a valid defect or this is not a defect at all, and they reject it. Second, defect leakage ratio is between environments, that we were supposed to find some of the defects, but it was found in the UAT or production. So you missed it. When you missed, so there are some predictions. Okay, there are some predictions by the manager that hey, we expect 2 or 3 defects to be leaked into the UAT, because of course we can't expect our people to be robots, right? We are human beings, and humans are error prone. So there could be a possibility that things can be missed out, but there is a ratio for it. So what you define that hey, I assume at least 3 defects or 5 defects will be leaked to the next environment or next phase, which is UAT. Now customer found 10 defects. Okay, so now that's 200%. 200% is your ratio for the leak defect. Same way for rejection. You accept that some of the defects will be rejected by the developer. You may have invalid defects or you will have anything else, right? So you measure that same thing, like what was your prediction over the actuals. So that gives you the ratio. Ruchi says, I'm always confused by static and dynamic testing. Could you clarify this? Static is all about uh, reviewing the work products, be it about code, documentation. We don't execute anything. Requirements, designs, diagrams, business models, use cases. There are so many documentation which you have. If you're just going through and identifying anomalies in these documentations, is what you call it as static testing. Whereas dynamic testing is more about running the application, performing the test, interacting with the system, and you call it as dynamic testing. That's a very straightforward definition to it. I hope that clarifies the understanding. If not, do let me know. Okay, SM says, what's bug release and bug leakage? Bug release, I don't think there's any such terminology. First of all, we don't release any bugs. And bug leakage, of course, you just discussed that. Defect leakage is the same thing. Mohammed Kaif says, hi sir, if you could recall, I am in previous live sessions, I couldn't clear the test. Now I'm at reattempting and I have cleared the exam. All thanks to your series. Your content is the best for the preparation. Thank you so much for your recommendation. And it's really sad to see that the first attempt didn't go well. And I hope you pretty much know where you went wrong with. So I hope you are pretty much ready. And yeah, no, ready. You reattempted. So congratulations on the success. Thank you so much for letting us know about your results and very, very layman level, clarity here, because a lot of people don't see such type of messages on our channel, and we are really happy that you tried sharing your experience with us. And you also say that can you share some light on scope in model-based development and what all certifications might be helpful? Um, In model-based certifications, or sorry, development, it is more of like model-based, of course. So you do the modeling, not the ramp walk. I mean here the model UML diagrams, okay, unified markup languages, and you use those standard modeling in terms of converting your theoretical requirements into business models, which becomes pretty much easy to derive your test cases using these models. So you get model-based tools, modeling tools, which helps you to build the business models, and at the same time, you are trying to even extract your test cases from there. The benefit of having model-based testing as an approach is the frequent changing requirements can be handled very well. Given that if your requirements are theoretical, managing the change request become very tedious, and based on these change requests, updating your test cases are much more tedious. So if you are following model-based testing or model-based approach, first of all, your requirement changes are managed pretty well because model can be much easier and convenient to update the change and track the changes. And second, deriving your test cases is much simpler. You don't have to worry about anything, just ta-da, right click, get the test cases, and you pretty much have all that what you need. So it certainly helps reduce your effort and build a lot of time saving in the overall process. Kirti says, yes, thanks a lot. It's very much clear now. You explain very well always. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's good. That's always a good compliment to keep you motivated all the time. SM says 9. I head off concurrency texting from someone yesterday. It's another type of testing. Mm, Not sure. If you was talking about performance testing, SM, then concurrent testing is more about having simultaneous users or simultaneous data upload or whatsoever, right? But I have not heard of anything called as concurrency testing. Let me check for you because it might be possible that my knowledge is outdated. Concurrency testing. What is it? Oh, there's something called as concurrency testing. Is defined as a testing technique to detect the defect in application when multiple users. Exactly same, right? This is what I told you. There's only one term, concurrency testing, when you have simultaneous users working on the application at the same time. Okay, SM says, is it possible to handle the project without documentation? To a certain extent, okay. To a certain extent, we can do that, but it's not 100% sure. Why? Because to a certain extent, you will need traceability, you will need reporting, you will need some things to be documented to have a clue. The problem is not with the documentation. Problem is when you need information of the project with the documentation, right? The data, the extracts that, hey, if I, for example, I ask you right away that tell me where is the progress of your project right now. If you don't have any documentation, you will not be able to give me the requirement coverage, the test coverage. You will not be able to tell me what is the defect information. You will not be able to tell me at any point of time where is your project standing, what are the risks you have identified, what risk you have mitigated so far because you don't have any documentation. And it could not be an auditable subject as well. Okay, to certain extent, my customer understands me. I understand my customer. I can verbally tell him, and I don't know which planet's customer will agree to that. If I go verbally and tell my customer, hey, your product is heading good and it is 60% complete, I'm not sure which customer will agree to my words and say, really, can I see something, right? But assuming that this guy goes with that also, how will you justify the artifacts to the auditor? They will not go without documentation. There will be at least some minimum sort. In fact, Agile never, never said no to documentation. They said limited documentation, high level documentation, but documentation is must. What about traceability? Right? Your test coverage, your requirement coverage in the test cases. If I don't have a traceability as a basis, my coverage measurement goes for a toss. I don't have progress measurement in terms of requirement. I don't have impact analysis possible, a number of things. So if you're ready to accept those challenges and say, I don't mind running 2000 test cases every 2 weeks whenever I do update, I don't care about impact analysis, Amazing. Go ahead with without documentation. So I would not say that there is a possibility without documentation. Yes, you can have high level documentation, but documentation is required. And Mr. Ravinder says, okay, Belief Faith is one of our known person, is one of our member as well. So I know his name, Ravinder. Host, please, what does it really takes to get to you directly? Till now, I can't get to you. I'm in need of your help. I really want to go into the IT world. Ravinder, sir, you do have my number. You can always WhatsApp me. If not, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn profile is right in the description of this video, and you can take out, connections. You can have a connection with me, and I'll give you my number or mail ID, however you want, and we can get in touch. Right? So please go ahead. You have the LinkedIn ID in the description below, and you can reach me there. Okay, SM has a lot of questions today. Can you please explain the difference and meaning of public static void and public void? Ah, okay. So when you want to pass arguments, right, in terms of like dynamic, you use public void. And if you want to restrict, you know, usage of that again and again, or you don't want to pass dynamic arguments, you use static. As simple as that. So it's more with the examples. Probably I would prefer if you could go with a Selenium discussion or tutorial, which would give you a better understanding that how this implementation happens. But yeah, in simple terms, in a very nutshell way, static is more of like restricting access to a particular class, whereas public void will be open and you can use it whenever you want. So it goes with the concept of polymorphism and all sort of things. So that's where this is applicable. Can you please explain the difference between implicit and explicit wait and when to use them? Again, this is a part of our Selenium concepts, and here we are talking about implicit is including and excusing, and explicit is hard coding. So this concept comes from synchronization time and wait time, right? For an example, a page takes 20 seconds to load. I don't know that. Okay. Something between 15 to 20 seconds. So if I'm supposed to run the test, I can't explicitly use 15 seconds because it may take 16 seconds. And at the same time, I'm not supposed to use explicitly 20 seconds because what if the page gets loaded at 16 seconds? I'm wasting 4 seconds of my execution. Getting my point? A page gets loaded between 15 seconds to 20 seconds of time. If you write in your code, hard coded that, hey, wait for 15 seconds strictly, and what if the page gets loaded in 16 seconds, your execution will fail. Second, if you increase it to 20, keeping it safer side, and you are using explicit wait 20 seconds, it will wait for 20 seconds even if the page is loaded in 16 seconds. You're wasting 4 seconds of your time. Both the cases, you have some kind of drawback. Now, what is implicit wait? Implicit wait considers 20 seconds, but if the page is loaded earlier, it will just skip the remaining seconds and continue to the next line. Okay, so this goes with the property attributes. It will keep checking continuously every second that whether this object is visible, whether this object is visible. And when the object is visible, that's it. It will move to the next line, right? It will move to the next line of the execution, right? So that's what the difference is. You also say what's mystery behind this thing called as WebDriver driver is equal to new Chrome driver in automation, and how to use them. Okay, I'm so sorry to say, now this is getting into a practical intervention. So I would recommend you from here, switch to a Selenium tutorial, because this is something which is about creating a Chrome driver instance in our Selenium automated script. And this helps you to create an instance of Chrome driver in order to interact with the Chrome as a browser, right? So when you want to run a test on a WebDriver, which is WebDriver is my element of Selenium, and Chrome driver is my driver of the browser. So we are creating an instance of it, which I could use thereafter to run all my instructions that, hey, go to this URL, maximize this browser, close this browser, minimize this browser, click on this object, click on that object, is the mystery of that. but it's not a mystery. This is the way how you interact with the browser. So I would suggest to you, if you really want to understand more about how this works, how this functions, that would be completely a practical approach. So go ahead with your quick tutorial, basic outline. Okay, now I'm not saying deep dive into Selenium. Go to Selenium, try to understand that how these functions and methods are used to interact with the browser. It will be different for different browsers. This is for Chrome right now. Same way you will have for Mozilla, you will have for Safari and etc. and IE Explorer, which is Internet Explorer, right? That's great. And finally, you say, thank you so much, sir. You are really a genius. Thank you so much for this. I'm not genius at all. It's just that I'm sharing whatever I know with all of you. And anyways, we are from last 2 weeks, we are going beyond our schedule, but I'm happy because I look forward to respond to all of you so that everyone is satisfied being here on the session. And it was really incredible talking non-stop for the last 60 minutes. 65 minutes. Yes, I think this is what we expect. This live session is all about interacting with all of you. This live session is all about listening to you and responding back to you and assisting you to the best possible way. We are really happy to have you all here. And this session is incomplete without your intervention, without your participation. And as usual, until unless you have some questions, this live session is incomplete. So thank you so much for participating in, and thank you so much for sharing your question. And special thanks to SM because he got a lot of things clarified today. And I hope he should have a wonderful evening, a wonderful day ahead. And he must be having a great information being taken away from this session today for sure. Don't forget to drop a thumbs up, team. And thank you so much for being here. It's really, really amazing interacting with all of you. It keeps me always nourished, motivated to keep up some good work for you all the time and keep bringing great content and motivate me to join here every Saturday rather than going to a pub. All right. So thank you so much, team. It was really pleasure interacting with all of you. And as usual, we say that's all from this particular live session, team. Should you have anything else, feel free to comment below. I'm always there to address your queries and answer them well. Till then, keep learning, keep exploring, keep understanding the context. Thanks for being a part of this live session, team, and happy learning. And stay safe. Take care. See you next weekend.